I know all of you like watching Delver mirrors. Mythic with a great question. How many blasts main between them? I don't know if Roland has blast main, but I know Dave has at least one. Roland says one apiece as far as Pyroblast in the main.
Nice. Good luck.
All right, good luck. Good luck.
Bolt on DRC resolves. Wasteland on Roland's Volcanic Island and a Ponder for Kaplan. Roland, someone in Twitch chat wants your playmat. How much are you willing to sell it to them for? You can get an auction going in the chat right now for Roland's playmat. How much is everybody willing to pay for it? Gift leader number 3, Dave Kaplan says, Roland and I had very close to same 75 discussions on Maddening Hex versus Snapcaster and Rough Tumble versus End the Festivities. So there's some notes on that, everybody. Cosmic Oil, thanks for the sub with Prime. 21 months for Cosmic Oil and says, it is Delver. It is Delver. Cosmic Oil's been with us since the beginning. What's up, Cosmic Oil? Appreciate the sub. Tap Mystic Sanctuary pass, not ideal. Interesting that Roland is using a retro frame card and not a regular frame card. This is interesting stuff happening. Days on Expressive Iteration led to the Mystic Sanctuary having to enter tap once again.
Yep.
Mystic Sanctuary goes into exile for Kaplan now. Off the Expressive Iteration. And it gets played. Roland finds another land. DRC. Ponder Surveil trigger.
We'll leave that on top.
Leaves it on top. Resolves the Ponder. Passing the turn now to Kaplan. What do you think of Ledger Shredder in Blue-Red Delver lists? We were talking about this a bit earlier, and I don't think Twitch chat had a lot of thoughts on the matter. But there have been a slow, gradual rise in the number of Ledger Shredders I'm seeing in, let's just say, tempo lists. I mean, some of them don't even have Delver, instead running Ledger Shredder. There has been a teamer list with Uro, DRC, and Ledger Shredder that has shown up a little bit recently. Maybe some people are moving over to that version. But I don't think most Blue-Red Delver players are switching over to Ledger Shredder yet. The majority have not made that switch. Dave Kaplan says if Murktide and Iteration get banned, Shredder and Predict could swap in. That seems like a possibility.
This game is not very fun.
Exciting.
The trick with Ledger Shredder is to, I feel, is to have the connive be a big part of your game plan somehow. Like there are, and when I start talking about Arena, I know some people get triggered and upset, but on the Arena format, historic, there are Shredder decks with other creatures with connive that have connive triggers and whatnot, and it just seems a lot more solid in that format. Pioneer and Modern, I think Ledger Shredder is doing quite a lot better. But in Legacy, especially with all the Narsets running around, and like Shen in chat is pointing out, it's just a bit slow.
I'm playing it for 0 cost 0. I don't get it. Whatever. Sure.
This explicitly says 0 high quality game.
It is true, though, that over time, if you're able to continually trigger connive on Ledger Shredder and your opponent doesn't have Narset in play and it's all good, that the Ledger Shredder could grow bigger than your opponent's Murktide and get you to victory. But does anybody have any thoughts? Have they tested Sailor's Bane that's watching right now? We were discussing Sailor's Bane quite a bit at the shop this week because we had a Delver player running that card, and it does look like it has potential, but people are unsure. I know it's not available on Magic Online, people have told me. At least it wasn't as of the last time someone mentioned it. But how does your Blue-Red Delver opponent, like if in the mirror right now Dave Kaplan dropped a Sailor's Bane and it resolved, how would Roland ever beat that? They were playing in addition to 4 Murktide, I believe. And here's a Murktide for Kaplan. You play an 8/8 Murktide and block, yeah. But then you're not attacking with your Murktide. It kind of like turns it into a standoff, you know? But they can remove your Murktide a lot easier than you can remove their Sailor's Bane is kind of the point.
Waste that or waste 2.
Waste on the Mystic Sanctuary. I like that with Days in the deck. Aquinas making a point similar to what I was trying to say before. Shredder is a good card when you're discarding for value. Reanimator, Madness, Dredge, Uro, Oval Chase, Daredevil. Other than that, it's not good. And in addition to that, if you have cards that are synergistic with Connive, literally the Connive ability. Murktide coming down here for Roland, trying to figure out what to exile. Yes, Currency Converter, another good reason to play Ledger Shredder, potentially. Yeah, just because it's has synergy with the discard effect. Or Canman says, I play Shredder in my shadow list because there isn't a good graveyard filler with DRC. So 4 like DRC. So 4 Murktide plus 1 Gurmag are a bit too much. Running the 2 Bane. Oh, we're talking about Sailor's Bane. Okay. Not Shredder. 2 Bane makes it easy to just drop in yet another Shadow that happens to be difficult to straight kill. Gotcha. And, you know, we talked about this a bit recently, and it's been a topic in our Discord server. Legacy in an awkward spot right now. We're maddening Hex. Minsk and Boo, as far as I know. Sailor's Bane and a few other relevant cards are not on Magic Online. So the tabletop Legacy metagame and the MTGO Legacy metagame are slightly diverging right now. It's not a big difference yet, but it's something. Not having key cards like Minsk and Boo and in my mind, Minsk and Boo and what was the other one? Maddening Hex on MTGO is not ideal. Does give people that play a lot of tabletop some advantage, I guess, over people that strictly play MTGO, and that, you know, maybe you have some practice with some of those cards. I don't know. There's also a white creature. Is it Abdel? Choose a background legend. We've seen some play with that card in our Discord server webcam Legacy League. And that's looked somewhat interesting. At least I think it was in the league. Anyway, everybody gets what I'm saying.
Just for 2. And then swinging in for 9.
It's been a couple of years now, I think, at least a year of several Commander product cards not appearing on MTGO. And so the slow, gradual diverging of MTGO Legacy and Tabletop Legacy has been happening for a while. There's been a couple of like Espervile options that have just not been available on Magic Online. Don't ask me what the names of the cards are because I don't remember. Some big turtle card. It's a black demon turtle or something. Anyway. Some people in Twitch chat, and you know, I've seen this said a few times, think that MTGO Legacy should just become its own format. I don't know how like important that is at this point in time, but no doubt about it, it's slowly, if the cards never get added to MTGO, it's slowly becoming a slightly different format. In a way, it always was, too, because there are cards from some early sets that just never, I mean, that are completely irrelevant, but just never were added to Magic Online. But now we're talking about cards that are relevant. We'll see.
That was all that I was supposed to do, so now it's paid off.
As far as I know, it's Commander set cards. Commander Edition unique cards are not being added to Magic Online in their entirety, which is where things are diverging. And I think for a while, Displacer Kitten was also unavailable, but now it's available. I don't really keep tabs on this because I don't have Magic Online, but this is what I hear from people. So there was a gap in availability for tabletop play and MTGO play for Displacer Kitten as well for a while. I don't know what the plans are. I don't know.
That's right.
Or Camman also make a good point. It has always been different to play on MTGO and in tabletop. There are decks like Dragon, World Gorger Dragon that is, Bomberman and Allurin that are almost completely unplayable because of the user interface. Very true. You don't see those decks appear in Magic Online tournaments because basically it's just too much clicking and, you know, one misclick and you lose the game, stuff like that. It's just a goofy thing where these decks are just not playable on Magic Online because of the way it works, the way the deck functions. Making infinite mana, things like that just don't work well on Magic Online. So, yeah, I don't really know how to really add on to that, but it's been different for a while. The only thing about the World Gorger Dragon, Bomberman, and Allurin stuff is that those decks were not really super relevant in tabletop either, where, you know, like half the top 8 was Bomberman or something like that at a big event. If it was that way, it would have been a lot more noticeable. But, good point. TLB, thanks for the follow. Welcome. Izzy saying, hey, Chris. Hey, Izzy. How's it going? Sinorna says MTGO needs macros. Yeah, that'll be good. Macros meaning you could kind of program a sequence of moves and just say, I want to do them over and over again. And then the computer will understand what you mean. So a DRC on the table here for Roland. And looks like we're right down the middle as far as advantage bar still here in game 2. Steam vents coming down. Sinorna says, here's the question about those decks, referring to the decks that struggle on MTGO because of the user interface. Are they underrepresented in paper because how poorly designed MTGO is? That I don't know. That is a possibility, but I don't know. Steam vents coming down for Kaplan this time. Tapped. It looks like.
I don't have any, so.
And step maybe Steam vents.
I mean, it seems like you could lose to 7 a lot.
And, you know, another thing about the MTGO versus tabletop legacy, and, you know, I'm saying versus, but I don't really mean that there's a conflict or a divide between the communities or anything like that, but like, I guess I feel like myself, I don't play Magic Online. And then there's another person on the other side that doesn't play tabletop, only plays Magic Online. I guess, where am I going with this? I guess I feel like, do we want different things? Do we want a different experience? Do you know what I mean? Like,
the brainstorm. Did you resolve the brainstorm?
Oh,
you know, we were talking about the Unfinity stickers earlier.
gotcha. So you
Like,
so yeah, surveilled already.
It's already been a controversial. Let's just use the word controversial thing in the legacy community. I feel like we have a lot more in common with the Commander community than we realize. Like, you know, Commander, you have CEDH, you have Commander that people are in conflict over what cards should be legal, what Rule Zero stuff should be discussed, should certain commanders be, you know, considered competitive and others not, you know. I just feel like the Legacy community is small enough where we can't really afford to just be breaking apart based on disagreeing about, you know, is MTGO metagame the real metagame, or is the tabletop metagame the real metagame? Maybe maybe it seems like I'm just kind of rambling here. I just have like a whole backlog of thoughts about this kind of thing. I just feel like any diverging or the community starting to split is going to be catastrophic for Legacy. I guess that's the way to sum it up. I don't think it's a good thing at all. Anyway, enough about that. It probably seems like I'm rambling. I don't know. Just spitting my thoughts out there. Izzy says I play MTGO and you have to think of it as a different game altogether. I play Control with and Chess Clock can lose you the game. That's true. Opponents have lost versus me because of Mindslaver effect more times than I can count. Yeah. Siderunner says I think Commander has the opposite problem. What do you mean by the opposite problem? Opposite of what?
Oh, I gotta get out of here.
Like, Commander has enough people that they can have sub-communities where these people play with only these cards. These people use Power 9. These people allow Infinity cards. Whatever. Like, they can do whatever, but if we're trying to be one format, one, you know, ban list, one metagame that we all agree is the metagame, and we all complain about the same cards to ban, and we're all on the same page. If we start to separate, I don't really know how that goes. Commander is so big that trying to keep it one or maybe two formats causes more issues than it fixes. Exactly. No, that's exactly what I mean. But for them, they just have so many people, it doesn't really matter. They can have multiple Commander communities, and there's just enough people to kind of like populate them all, and they're all one greater community altogether, and whatever. I don't know. You know, it's even like weird. Like, there's even like factions of the Commander community based around the content creator that plays a certain way, and you know, there's just a lot more going on, a lot more flexibility. Surveil on DRC with days on this brainstorm. I hope everybody's paying attention to this game too, because there's a lot of resource battling over resources happening here. Days on a brainstorm, hoping Roland can't find another land. And force pitching Expressive Iteration. Expressive Iteration, obviously a key card. Jump ahead later in the game is getting thrown away to stop a Days on a brainstorm.
You had that stage up.
So these are tough decisions being made by Roland.
Once it was gone, I was like, I don't have the lands to do this.
Hoping to dig out of maybe some mana issues here. And Aquinas puts it perfectly in the chat. Delver mirror matches as a chess match. Tons of micro decisions that add up to something major much later in the game. Exactly. The outcome of this game is being decided on plays like what we're watching right now, not attacking for Murktide 10 turns from now. necessarily.
Counter stays, brainstorm.
Brainstorm resolves, so this is good for Roland. Roland wins that battle. Let's see if he finds a land, though. Maybe not. I don't know if I saw a land.
That's why I think I avoided it. Because I think it was the good.
It was, I don't know if he was doing it where it was a live article, so he would like, yeah, he would hang it and it would still be publishing, and he would like update it as he's reading. I don't know if they did that anywhere.
You playing diamonds?
Yeah, Roland in the chat pointing out I needed that brainstorm to resolve so I can hit a land drop. Exactly. And maybe to someone, we were talking about new players picking up decks for Legacy earlier, and some people were talking about Blue Control or Delver or whatever. And, you know, decisions like this, force of willing your opponent's days on your brainstorm may, to a newer player, not seem as obvious. But Roland understands how dire things could be if Wasteland puts away this volcanic island and Dave just walks away, just runs away with it. These are plays being made coming from experience in the matchup. On both sides, even Dave dazing the brainstorm is not a play that maybe some newer players would consider as strongly. Dave Kaplan with a fake flavor text. Every Delver mirror is won before it's ever fought, says Sun Tzu.
You're like first or I think yeah, I kind of want to play in like a five color.
That sounds interesting. I
Another point of contention for Legacy community, not to stay stuck on that, but you know, these events that we're playing in here, that we're watching right now, do not allow proxies. These are sanctioned events where proxies are not allowed. And there's also like a few shops around the world, really, but shops and organizers that are trying to put together a scene for proxy Legacy. Cards like the dual lands, the Mox Diamonds, LEDs, these cards that are really expensive as someone in Twitch chat is pointing out that decks like Izzet Delver are expensive because you need 4 volcanic islands, for example. I guess if you start running proxy events, and then you have, and I'm not against proxy events. I know people for some reason think because I play in events that don't allow proxies that I hate proxies and I think proxies are terrible. Play with proxies. I don't care. But if we have proxy tournaments, proxies are allowed tournaments, and proxies are not allowed tournaments, does card availability change that metagame over time? Does that diverge too? Then we have 3 communities. And I'm talking over the long term. I don't know.
Like, anytime you present, like, map or crop rotation, you have so.
Side known as a tournament organizer for proxy events. Shen says, I am helping organize Proxy Legacy League in my community bi-weekly. It is great seeing people getting closer to Legacy and Legacy events in general in my city. Very nice. Queen S says, I strongly support events with proxies. Let's get more people playing Legacy. Yep. I think a lot of shops, too, I've gone to so many game stores around the United States, in Europe, in Canada, Mexico, wherever. And so many game stores just don't even have Legacy cards like under the glass for sale, and like the FNM is like booster draft and or standard, and they don't even run modern events. Like most stores just don't even bother with Eternal formats at all. Like it's not even a consideration. Or they obviously have Commander. They'll have Commander. And I think a lot of people think or feel like, I want to get a proxy Legacy community started at my local game store. And it's just like to walk into your game store tomorrow and be like, you know what we need? We need proxy Legacy events. Let's start it next week. We'll run them every week. And it's just like, who's going to come to that? Like, it takes a lot of effort to community build and get enough people that are even interested in showing up in the first place. Usually, this hasn't been my experience, but from when people tell me, they'll have a modern community, and a bunch of them will be playing MTGO Legacy, and they'll be like, let's get something going for paper proxy Legacy or whatever. And that's all great, but it's not like when Wizards announces, a standard has rotated, and then, the following week everybody's showing up to play a new standard. And I don't even know if shops are running standard right now, but it's just so much easier to have people to show up to that most of the time. Does everyone agree with that? I mean, I'm just like mostly guessing here, but just based on what I've seen at game stores I've been to, it just looks like there's not even a community there that's interested in Legacy most of the time. King Spade, thanks for the follow. Welcome. DRC coming down. Drummer says one of my local shops runs a weekly Legacy event that allows full proxies, even has a collection of proxy decks to help with getting interest. If it works for the store, great.
To try and get more clusters. Sweet. How much? I was playing a bunch of Snapcasters tonight.
Leave it on top.
But this time we're not because I'm playing more clusters.
I've joked in the past about how I have some Magic friends that play Modern, and their attitude, and they play a lot of Modern. They play a ton of Modern. They know everything about Modern, but their kind of attitude about if I were to say, oh, we're gonna have proxy Legacy events starting up, and would love for you to come. You could proxy whatever you want. I still don't feel like they would play. They're just kind of like, I gotta. What do I have to do? I have to print out dual lands. That's okay, Chris. You guys have fun. They just don't care. Is that anyone else's experience?
Very nice. Very useful.
What does Legacy have again? The Power 9? That's all right. I'll just play the Elementals Mirror in Modern. You guys have fun.
No surprise you guys search for a land.
They're just not even remotely interesting.
Yeah, you can search.
That's just my experience. I'm not saying everybody feels that way.
I was thinking about the line and not about. I was like, oh, like
I don't know. I don't know what we do. Here's an expressive iteration for Kaplan. It's a good way to dig back. No days from Roland. Drummer is correct. Ink is expensive. That's true. Aquina says, I think the best way to get modern Pioneer Commander players interested in Legacy is to show them footage of the game. I mean, I'm talking about people who play a ton of Modern, know me well, know I have this channel. They neither watch or interest. They're not interested at all. They're not interested at all. And I'm not making fun of them or think they're bad for being that way, but it's just funny. It's like they're just not even remotely interested.
Don't have a lot of experience with the decks.
And then you can count their stuff. So if, let's say,
I think Shen gets straight to the point. Why do I think they're not interested? I think they're not interested because this is my opinion. I don't really know why they're not interested. I don't even really ask them. But I think they're not interested because the perception, the like public perception, whatever you want to call it, of the format is that it's outrageously expensive, which it is compared to other formats. And the idea of playing with proxies, fake cards, whatever you want to call it, they're just not interested. They want to play with their foiled out modern decks. You know, they want to play with, you know, the Steam vents that they got at Grand Prix, whatever, and they got it signed and whatever. I mean, they're just not interested. They're bored by the whole thing. A deck is $5,000, so I got to play with a paper slip card. They're not interested. They're bored.
Delver seems like it's
Pretty good.
extremely linear.
That's spicy. It's fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, you know, I'm just thinking about people I know in my mind. They got one night a week that they can make it out to the shop. They play their modern, and, you know, they play Pioneer. That's it. They're out of time for Magic. That's, you know, there's not a lot of time left to get into a whole other format.